My Good Wife. Wow. The 1959 model was super duper. And Denise's daddy, who couldn't be here today, he has Alzheimer's and is in decline. When Diane, who's here, visiting Mike, where Dad lives, he told her, he's confused now, but he told Diane, he said, we lost a good girl. He said, I think she was one of mine. But that's pretty special. Well, by the time Pastor Paul Martin dropped my wife off at the Fellowship Camp Grove and said, would you take her home tonight? Take her back to York. I've been taking her home ever since, to one degree or the other. And oh, what a fun journey. Wow. Just a wonderful thing. But you know, Friday a week ago, she left me. I never expected my wife to leave me, being the nice guy that I am. And she left me. And quite frankly, it was a great deal for her. It's a very bad deal for me. And I'm missing her like crazy. I'm missing her at church. You heard the reason why. I'm missing her in the home. You know the reason why. But she was a woman of faith and prayer. No, she didn't jump up and run around. I never saw her run the aisle or swing a hanky or do anything really bizarre. And if you do that, God bless you. But she was a woman of faith. And I knew when she prayed about something, look out. Hopefully you were on the right side of that prayer. Even this thing, I found in her prayer notes after she passed away. She said, I asked God to deliver me from my pains. And she never wanted to be disabled. She never wanted to be messed up in any way. And so I'm really missing her. And I would joke at church. Other people know, because I do joke at church. And thank you to my church family who are here, a lot of them. Some can't be. You know, I figured my wife would outlive 2 or 3 husbands. And I recommended that. I mean, why not share the goodness? I'm okay with that. And I'm not Mormon, but I loved her. Sorry. Anybody out there, God bless you. But I told her, I said, someday you'll find a richer one. You'll find one that's probably smarter. But you'll never find a funnier one or a crazier one. I said, guaranteed that. She left me right before Mother's Day. I don't have that much to say. But she never let me call her mother. She said, I am your wife. I am your wife. I'm not your mother. So check up, guys. Now, if that's a term of endearment for you, poor you. But anyhow, she supported me. She loved me. And she never badmouthed me. There's no one in this room can come up to me and say, I heard your wife told me all kinds of rumors about you, how bad you were. Because really, she was so nice to me. You never told folks, Denise, you never told folks how big a jerk I really was. And I got the better end of this bargain, and she loved me. And next to Jesus, she was my everything. She did her thing. And I feel lost without you, baby. My life will never be the same. And now after 58 years, I got to learn to grow up, to be an adult. I got to learn to try to survive. And it's going to be tough, but I appreciate your prayers. And I love my wife. And this is unbelievable, unspeakable, and not even something I could imagine. But I'm not quitting, and I'm not done with ministry. Hear that, devil? I love people. I love the Lord. And I'm on the same trajectory. Is it going to be twice as hard? One more thing. I have this little thing on my arm, tells me how many steps. We used to compete with steps. You know, her step thing worked better than mine because we look differently. But just recently, I had 10,000. I was around my 10,000 steps, which is the minimal goal for each day. She had But since she passed, the other day it was like 18,000. I thought, why so many? Oh, that's because I'm doing everything in the house, everything out of the house, everything all there. So that's the reason she was so skinny. Taking care of me.
Thank you for being here and for every kindness we've shown you. We thank you so much, or you've shown to us. We thank you so much. The scripture says there's a time to weep, a time to mourn, and that time for our family has come. We have cried and cried until we thought no more tears would come, and soon more were on the way. And we know, as many of you well know, that tears will continue for many, many years. I remember some years ago when my great-grandmother, Jessie Woods, passed away, that my grandfather, Alvin, stood over her casket, and she was in her 90s. He was retirement age. And I remember him sobbing, "Mom, oh Mom." And I couldn't help but, as I watched him, think that he looked like a little boy. He looked like a little boy. Now I know how he felt. After this week and this loss, I don't feel like a 35-year-old man with 5 kids and a home, a career, and a calling. I feel like a little boy, a lost little boy who needs his mom. The time for weeping is now. I will not try to tough this out. I will not try to pretend that everything's going to be okay, because it's not. We mourn a life too soon cut short. We know we live in a world affected by sin and disease and tragedy, and the effects of those things are carried out on the just and the unjust. And this time, it affected one of the most just people to ever live. I wish we could bottle up health and give it to the best, and we can encapsulate disease and hardship and give it to the worst, but that's not how it works. And so we are here. What do we do? Well, first of all, we mourn. We mourn memories that will no longer be made. My mind goes ahead to Christmases that won't even remotely be the same. Mom would begin shopping like after Christmas, because that's when you get the good deals for next year's Christmas items. Gifts would be wrapped months in advance, piled high, not just around the tree, but in every corner of the living room. And every year they were cutting back, but every year the stack grew taller. And every year I would come in Christmas Eve and say, "Mom, I need to wrap your gift. Where's your wrapping paper?" We mourn all the special events where she would have been, and excitingly so. We've already had some of those programmed this week that she was planning to be at. Every graduation, every birthday, she never missed those things and wouldn't. We mourn the loss of a mother's love. The love that she had for us, of course, will live on, but there'll be no more earthly expression of that love. But we also come to say thank you. My mother and I had a good relationship, so I don't have a big pile of regrets, but I do have a few. One of them is that she never received the accolades and appreciation that she so deserved. She lives quietly, as has already been said, in the background. But in that background, she was very active, more active than most. She's truly a woman of diligence and resourcefulness, of love and care and concern. She risked her life to give me life, and I say thank you. She spent, as Susanna alluded to, 13 years preparing me for college, and she thought I had done such a bad job that I would fail. But I didn't, because she had done the very best she knew how. We were homeschooled, but it was not a homeschooling situation where you got up and did what you wanted. You got up, you ate breakfast, you started at a certain time, you had a break at a certain time. I remember on 9/11, we had an argument. Because I listened to the radio during school, and she didn't like that very much, but I'm like, "Mom, the country's on fire. Do your schoolwork!" I had to appeal to the principal to say, "Mom, this is a national emergency. I think school should be suspended." I did win that one. She loved me unconditionally. The love of a mother runs deep. She believes in you, supports you, cares for you when no one else will. An example of this, my mother hated the thoughts of animals in the house. Hated that. And she thought it was nearly sinful. Yet, because when we were children, our outside dog, we had to get rid of him, she allowed rats and gerbils in her house because her kids were sad. In this last year, both Susanna and I got puppies, and she allowed those puppies into her house at Thanksgiving and Christmas. She was even thinking of watching our puppy while we were at IHC, so Sadie wouldn't have to go to a kennel. That is mother's love. She worked. Our house was so clean you could have eaten off the toilet seat, though I wouldn't recommend it. Her routine was meticulous, from using toothbrushes and Q-tips to cleaning every last part of the car to making her own laundry soap and hand soap. She was constantly working every camp work day, always at the church, always doing quietly, efficiently, and doing it well. She had fun. Some of you didn't know she could have fun, but she did. I have many fond memories of Mom playing games with us as a child, and she loved to do the things that brought joy and happiness to her children and grandchildren. There are no tears in heaven, but if there were, it would be of a mom for her grandkids who are hurting so badly. She was unique. She's the only 63-year-old woman that I know who could wear preteen clothing. When I went to shop for her, I had to go to Aeropostale in the mall and buy her teenager clothes, and she wore them. She was faithful to her God, to her church, to her home, and her family, including her husband. And if you know my dad, that merits the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Not likely to happen with the current administration. She was intentional. On Friday, I went through and took pictures of the cupboards and the shelves, the hidden storage areas, everything meticulously aligned. There was no detail of any trip or daily duty or meal or church service which was not planned, thought of, provided for. When she would come to funerals here at my church, I would say, "Hey, Mom, I need a mint." Or, "Do you have a Tylenol?" She put effort into those things, but looking back, I realized she invested that kind of detail into our character. She invested that kind of detail into our lives. It was not an accident, the things she had us doing, the way she was training us. It was as on purpose as the neatly aligned closets were, is what she gave to us and what she poured into us. I'll be honest, standing before you today, heaven seems so far away. We stand in a good place, knowing without a shadow of a doubt that she's in heaven. If she didn't make it to heaven, no one is. Her Bible is up to date. The last page is the day she died. Her walk was consistent and true. There was no wavering with her. She did have one potential spiritual issue, and that was of idolatry with the grandkids. I tried to tell her, these are grandkids, not gods. You don't have to do everything they say. I mean, they could throw a rock through a window. She'd be like, "Oh my, what an arm you have." I know heaven is real. We are consoled by the fact that the sting of death has been removed. We are looking forward to, as the song says, the hello after goodbye, a blessed reunion promised in time. But I've got to confess how I feel today. Heaven is real. She's really there, but it seems so far away. When I was a boy, I was going to go to my grandparents' house for a few days, and they came to pick me up there in Alexandria. And I remember the car was in the driveway, my suitcases were in the trunk, and it was time to say goodbye. I started crying, and of course I told my mom, well, my eyes are just watering, and allergies, of course. But the truth is that I didn't want to say goodbye to my mom. Fast forward, well, she told me, she said, "It'll be okay." She said, "I'll see you in a few days." And I did. I left, cried a little bit, enjoyed time with Grandpa and Grandma, and enjoyed the reunion when we returned. Fast forward all these years, I know where she is. I know it's good. And I really know that it'll just be a couple of days, but it still hurts because today we say goodbye. The other day, my youngest girl, Israela, was saying goodbye to someone, and she said, "Super bye." She was being cute, as a 3-year-old can, but the words struck me, and I thought, that's what this is. This is a super bye. This is a long goodbye. It's our turn now. It's often said around Mother's Day that a mother is the one who spends the time baking the pie or the cake, and when the family has eaten and there's no pieces left, she declares that, well, she didn't like pie or cake anyways. And for years, this woman sacrificed and served, denying herself and deferring enjoyment to others. That's what she did, and did well. This Mother's Day, our hearts are split in two. We sometimes don't know if we can bear the pain. But I have thought about it this way. It's our turn to do without. She did without so many times for us. And now it's our turn to do without her. And tough as that is, we have to know now that what she's experiencing is beyond amazing, beyond what the mind can even imagine. And so as much as it hurts, as much as it just hurts, she's enjoying what she deserves. Pastor Martin preached to my dad's congregation on Sunday, and I was there, and he said something to the effect, I hope I have this right, you can correct it later, but when you're in heaven, it's like you're coming in for a service and the people are coming down the aisle. You know, some of you get to church earlier rather than others, right? And you slide into a pew, and pretty soon somebody else comes in, and the service starts, and you're all together. And maybe that's a little bit like what it is in heaven, that she's there. Moses turns around and says, I just got here. I told Remington, I'm trying to instill this into my boys. I said, Remington, if you live to be 95 years old and you serve Jesus, you'll get to heaven, you'll walk down that aisle, and Grandma will turn around and say, Remy, what? I just got here. Well, come on in. That's what we've got to think. Here it seems so long. Here it stretches out, but it's a moment of time. And over there, she's not experiencing any of that. So it's our turn to serve Christ without question, to live above reproach, to work, for the night is coming, to join her where she is. It's our turn to finish well.
We're taking our Sing of the Lord hymnals again, and let's stand together